Hello friends, welcome to my channel Quiz and Storyline. Friends, I kindly request you to subscribe to my second channel, Anokai Movie Stories, where I explain this video in Urdu. Today, we'll talk about a story that begins on October 19th, where we see a steamship named Kerberos heading from England to New York City. On this ship is a girl named Maura, who has a dream one night where she finds herself in a mental asylum, and her father comes to visit her. Seeing her father, she loses control and screams, accusing him of being responsible for what happened to the Prometheus ship. Suddenly, Maura wakes up. In reality, the ship Maura is on had a sister ship named Prometheus. 4 months earlier, it had been on the same route when it mysteriously disappeared along with all its passengers in the ocean. This event made headlines worldwide, as many important figures were traveling on Prometheus. Although Maura experienced this dream, she feels there might be some truth hidden within it. Maura doesn't remember her past very well. A day earlier, her brother had given her a ticket to New York so she could celebrate New Year's there. The ship has 1,500 passengers, divided into different categories, such as some traveling in the worker class, some in the lower class, some in the middle class, and some in the high class. Maura is traveling in the high class, where no one from the lower classes is allowed to enter. There are other passengers with Maura, including a couple who are pretending to be brother and sister in front of everyone, as individual freedom was restricted at the time. There is also a newlywed couple, but they don't seem happy. A Japanese girl is also part of this journey, being taken by her owner to be sold in New York. While all the passengers are having lunch, a boy from the lower class comes upstairs, and security quickly grabs him. He yells that his sister is pregnant and her condition is worsening. He needs a doctor. Although there is a doctor on board, he is unwilling to go to the lower class. Maura has medical training, so she goes with the CEO to help the pregnant sister, Dub, and then returns to her class. The ship's captain approaches her. The captain always appears depressed because 2 years ago, he lost his wife and child and blames himself for it. Meanwhile, one of the captain's men arrives and informs him that they are receiving signals from another ship. The captain goes below to check the signals and is shocked to discover they are coming from the Prometheus ship, which had vanished 4 months ago. They are astonished, wondering how anyone could survive for 4 months in the ocean without food and water. They decide to head in that direction and set off towards Prometheus without telling any of the passengers. After a long journey, they reach Prometheus. Maura, the captain, and a few of his crew take a boat to reach the Prometheus and board it. They find no signs of any humans, despite the fact that hundreds of passengers were on board. The captain doesn't find any bodies on the ship. He then goes to the control room where the signals were coming from and is shocked to discover that the machine sending the signals is broken. Meanwhile, Maura spots a green beetle on the floor and follows it as it moves towards a wall that's sealed with a stone. When she opens it, she finds a small boy sitting inside, quietly staring at them, holding a small pyramid in his hand. No one understands how this child ended up here while all the other passengers disappeared. They take the boy back to their ship, but another man from the Prometheus sneaks aboard their ship as well, carrying the same green beetle Maura had seen earlier. This man stays in the room next to Maura. Maura is given the responsibility of looking after the boy. The next day, the man introduces himself as Daniel, though Maura doesn't recognize him. However, Daniel seems to know Maura very well. Maura returns to her room and finds the boy sitting in front of her. She notices a mark on his neck in the shape of an inverted pyramid, similar to the symbol she had seen in the letter from her brother, which came with tickets to New York. Maura asks the boy questions about the pyramid, but he doesn't speak, as he doesn't talk to anyone at all. Daniel, who also has a green beetle, releases it in the lower class section of the ship. The beetle approaches a young girl, and she dies instantly. At the same time, all the ship's compasses, which had been working fine, stop showing the correct direction. The captain realizes that the same events that happened on the Prometheus are now happening to their ship, which then disappeared. Maura goes to the captain's cabin and is shocked to find the same inverted triangle symbol that she saw tattooed on the boy's neck and in her brother's letter. She realizes that something strange is happening, and they decide to go back to the Prometheus ship. There, the captain finds a list of passengers who were aboard the Prometheus and had disappeared. To his surprise, Maura's name is also on the list. This shocks the captain, and he begins to suspect that Maura is hiding something. He wonders how Maura survived the Prometheus and why she is now on this journey again. The captain keeps this to himself and doesn't confront Maura. They return to their ship, only to find that the lower and middle class passengers have revolted against taking the ship back to England, as they had spent a lot of money on this journey, which they had worked hard to earn. Adding to the tension, the death of a lower-class girl has fueled their anger. They accuse the boy, who was brought from the Prometheus, of being the cause of all the trouble and demand that he be thrown into the sea. Maura doesn't want this to happen, but no one listens to her, and the boy is thrown into the sea. Maura asks the captain for help, but he accuses her of lying, saying she hid the fact that she was on the Prometheus ship. Maura is shocked and confused. Meanwhile, despite the ship being anchored, it isn't moving and continues to circle around the Prometheus. As everyone sits in confusion, they hear a knocking sound from inside a cabinet, and the boy they had just thrown into the sea emerges from it. He's still holding the small pyramid and hugs Maura, causing her to faint. Now, all the passengers are convinced that this child is evil, and they imprison him. The passengers form two groups, one led by the captain, who wants to return to England, and the other composed of the middle and lower class passengers who insist on going to New York. Tensions rise, and everyone becomes increasingly hostile. The pregnant woman from the lower class, named Tu, whom Maura had treated at the beginning of the story, decides to join the captain's group because her own people have become too aggressive. Maura regains consciousness and learns that the boy has been imprisoned, so she goes to free him, though everyone is against her. While people argue and make noise, a man suddenly fires a shot aimed at Maura. Daniel leaps to protect her, and at that moment, time slows down dramatically. The boy, who had been locked up, frees himself and comes to Maura. Now, time completely stops, leaving only Maura and the boy. The boy takes Maura with him, and she follows him to her room, where she asks him what's happening and why she doesn't understand anything. How does he keep surviving? The boy writes on a piece of paper that he cannot speak because someone is always watching and listening. He tells her that she must follow him. Maura needs answers to all her questions, so she starts following the boy. In the boy's hand is the same green beetle we last saw with Daniel, which he left in the lower class, after which a girl died, and all the compasses malfunctioned. Now, when the boy places the green beetle on the ground, a portal opens. Maura steps through this portal and finds herself in an unknown place. Meanwhile, back on the ship where time had been frozen, things return to normal, and a strange sound begins to echo. The captain notices that both Maura and the boy are missing. He looks at Daniel and says, "I've never seen you on this ship before. You must be in cahoots with Maura and the boy." He grabs him, but two stops them, saying, "Now is not the time to fight. We need to figure out how to get out of here." Suddenly, everyone on the ship gets hypnotized by the sound and heads to the deck, where they start jumping into the sea. Daniel, shocked by this, runs below deck. He also has the same green beetle and opens a portal like the boy did, arriving at the same place where Maura was harmed. There, he meets the boy and asks, "What happened to Maura? Why doesn't she recognize me?" The boy says, "Maura is the only one who can stop everything." Daniel returns to the ship through the portal to try and save the people. He reaches the machine producing all the sound and tries to shut it down. Meanwhile, we are introduced to a newly married couple who are unhappy with each other. A poor man suddenly arrives, holds them at gunpoint, and ties their hands, then ties his own hands as well, so they don't get hypnotized and jump into the sea. Elsewhere, Maura sees an asylum in front of her, the same asylum her father had built for her mother. She enters the mental hospital, where two people grab her, and her father appears, asking, "Where did you hide that thing?" Maura doesn't understand, but from his words, she realizes that her father had a hand in the disappearance of Prometheus 4 months ago. Maura is then injected with a strange substance, and when she wakes up, she finds herself back in her bed on the ship. She goes to the captain and says, "I don't know if I was on Prometheus 4 months ago, but I do know that whatever happened to Prometheus was because of my father. The memories I've lost were erased by him." In reality, Maura's father's life revolved around Maura's mother, and when Maura was born, her mother's mental state deteriorated. Afterward, Maura's father built the mental hospital for his wife, the same place Maura has just returned from. Maura's father never had any affection for his children. He started conducting experiments on the human brain, and now Maura is sure that whatever happened to Prometheus, or what's happening on this ship, is part of her father's experiments. Maura sees the same beetle, the green one, and she follows the same procedure the boy did. After opening the door, they both step inside and find themselves in front of a burned-down house, the same house where the captain's wife and child died. Meanwhile, Daniel manages to shut down the sound that was hypnotizing everyone, but it's too late. Out of the 1,500 people on the ship, only a few remain, the rest have jumped into the sea. On the ship, Maura's father's man, Wilson, is searching for the boy but can't find him. Maura's father is shown sitting in a room with several monitors in front of him, watching Maura and every corner of the ship. This means he knows what everyone is doing at all times. Wilson goes to Maura's father and says, "I've searched the entire ship for the boy, but he's nowhere to be found." Maura's father replies, "Finding that boy is crucial, or our experiment will not be complete." The captain and Maura return to the asylum to gather evidence against Maura's father. Daniel also arrives there. Daniel appears, leaving both of them in shock, because they had arrived through a portal, which meant Daniel also knew about it. The captain attacks him, but Daniel uses his teleportation power to send him into the jungle. Maura is scared of Daniel and looks at him with surprise. Daniel says, "Don't you remember? I'm your husband, and we've been married for 12 years. Maura doesn't believe him and sees him as a threat. She locks Daniel in a room and leaves. She throws the gun she had, but it hits the glass and falls. Then, she approaches the invisible wall, opens its cover, and returns to her ship. Meanwhile, Maura's father is shown watching everything on his monitors. He can see Maura and every part of the ship. He knows everything. He steps out of his house in the jungle and re-enters the Prometheus ship. When he looks outside, he is shocked to see many large ships. On the other hand, Maura reaches her ship, where only a few passengers are left. A storm begins in the sea, and water starts to rise onto the ship. All the passengers get scared and decide to go down to the engine room. Maura searches the ship for the captain, but she can't find him anywhere. Then, she goes to the captain's room, where there's a small basement under the bed, just like in her room. When she went into the basement under her bed, she reached the asylum her father had built for her mother in her memories. Now, she's convinced that the captain must also have gone into his memories, so she goes into the basement. But instead of the captain, she finds the captain's dead wife, who attacks her and asks, "What are you doing in the captain's memories?" Maura leaves and goes back to Daniel's room because he had claimed to be her husband and said they'd been married for 12 years. Maura enters Daniel's memories and arrives in a familiar room. There are many pictures of Daniel and Maura there, including a picture of a child who never speaks and has a small pyramid. From the photos, it seems the child is Daniel and Maura's son. On the other hand, Daniel is shown inside Maura's memories. Then, he leaves her memories and goes to a grave where the child is hiding. Daniel says, "You need to save yourself because Maura's father is looking for you." The child replies, "Don't worry about me, I'm safe here." Then, the child gives Daniel a ring and says, "Give this to Maura." The child is actually Maura and Daniel's son. After that, Daniel exits Maura's memories and returns to the ship. Maura realizes she must somehow be lost in her past memories. When she goes to the basement under her bed, where her memories are kept, they come back to her. Maura becomes convinced that Daniel is indeed her husband. Daniel tells her that everything happening here is just an illusion, and it's all part of a game that they have to finish. If they don't, it will restart again. To win this game, they need the key that Maura had hidden. They must use the key to open the pyramid that their son has, and by doing so, they can win the game, ending everything. Maura says she doesn't remember anything about the key, but the letter her brother had sent, which included tickets, contained a key that she had fixed into her locket. The locket is still with her. At that moment, Maura remembers that her father, whom she had met in the mental asylum, had been asking her about the same key. Maura's father is shown, and a man comes to him with Maura's son. Maura's father declares, "Bring me that key quickly, or I will kill your son." Maura's son has a small pyramid, which her father takes and opens. Inside, there is a keyhole. Maura still has the key. At that moment, she's on a ship stuck in a storm, which eventually reaches a quiet sea, where many ships are present. This is the same place where Prometheus and several other ships are located. The captain is also inside Prometheus and joins the ship. Then, some of Maura's old memories are shown, where she is with her son, and a green beetle is with them. Maura says, "If you want to keep the beetle safe, you must set it free." At the same time, Maura's son wakes up and is still with his grandfather. Maura's son asks his grandfather why they are all trapped here. To this, he responds, "It's not my doing, but rather your mother's. All these people came here willingly because their lives were filled with painful memories, and they wanted to escape from them. But no one can completely erase their pain and sorrow, which is why they are trapped here." Maura's grandfather takes his grandson into a room where there are two injections, one black and one white. The black injection erases memories, while the white one restores old memories. He gives his grandson the white injection, and after that, they see in his memories that he was suffering from a dangerous disease. Maura loved him deeply, so she wanted to send him to a simulated world, which isn't real, but the people there believe it is their true world. All the people in this ship had chosen this virtual world because they were unhappy in their real lives. However, their bodies are somewhere else, and their minds are here. No one remembers when they came to the ship. Maura's husband, Daniel, had tried to save her from it, but Maura believed that if they did this, they could be together forever. Maura, her son, and others, who were troubled in their lives, came to this simulated world, which was an illusion. On the other hand, Daniel used his device to hack the simulation, causing it to start breaking down. A black substance spreads throughout the ship, starting to destroy it. Maura is captured and taken to her father, where she admits that she was the one who created the simulation. Her father demands the key, and Maura hands it to him. After this, Maura's father gives her a black injection, which erases her memories. He has the pyramid key, under which it says "Wake up." If the key is inserted into the pyramid, everyone will wake up in the real world. However, when Maura's father uses the key, it doesn't work. Daniel had hacked the system and changed the pyramid key, so it no longer functions. Maura wakes up in a place where nothing exists. She sees a cross, beneath which is her husband, Daniel. He reveals the truth that in the real world, Maura's brother has taken control of the simulated world and trapped them all here. Daniel had switched the pyramid key, and he still possesses it. He explains that they are in the first room they created. Daniel gives Maura a small pyramid with the same key her son gave her. He says it's time to return to the real world. Maura inserts the key into the pyramid, and she wakes up in the real world, where we see a large chamber filled with many people. These are the same people who were on the ship and had sought an escape from their painful lives. However, they are still trapped in this world. Maura has returned to the real world, but it's not Earth. Instead, it's a spaceship called Prometheus. Inside this spaceship, all the people are asleep in machines. The screen then shows passengers on 423 Group FA50 and the date October 19, 2019, indicating that all these people are inside the spaceship, trapped in the game world. I kindly request that you help us reach 10,000 subscribers on our channel as soon as possible. We hope you enjoyed this video and will like it. Please subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for your heartfelt comments. See you in the next video.